The night was dark on the alien world. The sky was filled with broken stars glowing weakly like dying candles. The ground shook as heavy footsteps followed a small figure. It was the alien girl, her skin pale, her eyes wide with fear, her breath fast. Behind her came the monsters, tall, ugly, and full of rage. They looked like shadows made of teeth and claws, their growls rolling across the mountains. Everywhere she turned, she could hear them, smell them, feel them. They were hunting her, and they would not stop. The alien girl's legs burned as she ran. She had been running for hours, but still she pushed herself. She knew if she stopped even for a second, the monsters would tear her apart. She clutched a small crystal close to her chest, the last piece of her people's power. She was the last one alive, the last to escape. The path led her through ruins of old towers, broken by fire and war. Her world had once been full of light, but now it was a grave. The monsters had destroyed everything. They hunted her because of the crystal. They wanted what was inside her. She whispered to herself, "I cannot fall. I must survive." The sound of claws scraping against stone made her heart freeze. She turned and saw glowing red eyes in the shadows. The monsters were closer now, faster than before. Her strength was leaving her, but she refused to give up. Up ahead, she saw something, an old gate. Half broken, half glowing. It was a portal, a damaged one, the last hope. She stumbled toward it, each step heavier than the last. The monsters roared behind her, shaking the ground. The broken portal sparked with weak blue light. It looked unstable, but it was all she had. Her legs gave out and she fell to her knees. The monsters were almost upon her. She could hear their hot breath, smell their burning skin. Her hands shook as she pressed the crystal against the portal. The gate roared to life, blue light exploding like a wave. The ground cracked, the sky split, the monsters screamed, and she threw herself forward into the light. The portal swallowed her whole. Darkness surrounded her, endless and cold. She floated through the void, not knowing where she was going. Her body was weak, her mind fading, but she held onto the crystal, whispering, "Please, let me live." The void twisted and pulled her. Her body shook as if it would break apart, but suddenly she felt air. She fell hard onto wet ground, coughing and gasping. The portal behind her collapsed with a final spark, and then it was gone. The alien girl lifted her head slowly. She was no longer on her dying world. She was on Earth, though she did not know the name. The sky was black, rain fell heavy. Tall houses stood around her, their windows glowing with warm yellow lights. She lay in the mud, shivering, weak but alive. Then she heard something, a sound she had never heard before. It was soft, short, almost funny. A bark, her eyes widened. In front of her stood a small creature, its body round, its face wrinkled, its eyes large and curious. It was a pug. The little dog tilted its head. Staring at her, it was not afraid. It was not a monster. It just looked at her, breathing fast, wagging its tiny tail. The alien girl crawled back, confused. How could something so small and harmless exist? The pug barked again, then slowly walked closer. The rain soaked them both. For the first time, she did not feel hunted. She felt seen. But then the ground shook. Her heart stopped. She knew that sound. The monsters. Had they followed her through the broken portal? The pug growled softly, standing in front of her, as if this little creature was ready to protect her. The alien girl's hands trembled. She looked into the shadows beyond the rain, and there, faintly, glowing red eyes appeared once more. Rain poured down on the silent street. The alien girl trembled, her body weak, her eyes fixed on those faint glowing shapes in the shadows. Her heart told her the nightmare had followed her, even here on this strange new world. But standing in front of her was something she could not understand. A small pug dog, its chest puffed out, its little paws planted firm in the mud, its round face full of bravery. The pug barked again, sharp and loud. The sound echoed against the wet walls of nearby houses. The monsters paused in the dark, their red eyes flickering, their claws scraping against the earth. The alien girl could not believe it. This tiny creature was standing between her and the danger. Something so weak, so small, was daring to face the shadows. Her body shook with exhaustion, and she sank to the ground. The pug looked back at her, then barked again as if telling her to move. She did not understand the words, but she understood the meaning. The dog was not running, it was asking her to follow. The pug trotted a few steps away toward a small wooden structure near the edge of the house. It was a doghouse painted white, its roof slanted. its entrance barely wide enough for the alien girl to crawl inside. She hesitated, her mind racing. Her people had once lived in great cities, with walls that touched the skies. Now she was being led to shelter in a small house meant for a dog. But the storm was heavy. The monsters were close, and she had no choice. On her hands and knees, she crawled inside the doghouse. The smell of straw and old wood filled her senses. It was tight, cramped, but it was dry. The pug followed her, squeezing in beside her, pressing its warm body against her cold skin. For the first time in days, she felt a little comfort. Outside, the shadows moved. She could hear the monsters breathing, feel their weight in the air. Her eyes glowed faintly in the darkness, and she covered them with her hands. Afraid they might see, the pug pressed closer to her. Growling in its small but fierce voice, the alien girl's heart softened. Back on her world, nothing had stood for her. Nothing had protected her. But here, a creature so tiny and strange had chosen her. Thunder cracked across the sky. The monsters hissed and pulled back, as if the storm itself pushed them away. Their red eyes vanished into the trees beyond the street. The alien girl let out a breath she did not know she was holding. She had survived again thanks to the pug. Minutes passed. Then hours. Rain slowed, the world quieted. The alien girl leaned her head against the wooden wall of the doghouse, her body weak and heavy. The pug curled at her side, its breathing calm. For the first time since she had fled her dying world, she closed her eyes without fear, but peace did not last. Voices echoed through the night, human voices, strong, calling out a name again and again. "Bobby, Bobby, where are you, boy?" The alien girl's eyes snapped open. She had no idea what the words meant, but she knew the sound of searching. Someone was looking for the pug. The little dog barked once, as if answering. The alien girl panicked. What if these new beings were like the monsters? What if they hated her strange face, her glowing eyes, her pale skin? Her breath grew fast, her fingers dug into the straw. The pug barked louder, pushing its nose out of the doghouse. Footsteps crunched against the wet ground, getting closer. Then came light. A beam from a human lantern shined across the doghouse. The alien girl froze, her heart pounding like drums through the opening. She saw them, a human, tall, wearing a raincoat, holding the light in one hand. His face was tired but kind, his eyes searching with worry. When he saw the pug, he sighed with relief. "There you are, Bobby." The alien girl could not understand the words, but she could hear the warmth in his voice. The pug wagged its tail, stepping out to greet its human. The alien girl stayed inside. Hidden, her body tense, the man crouched, patting the pug's head, but then his light caught her face. Two glowing eyes stared back at him from the darkness of the doghouse. His breath caught for a moment, neither moved. The alien girl felt exposed, weak like prey again. She pressed back against the wall, clutching the crystal close to her chest. The human lowered the light a little, his face softening instead of hardening. He whispered almost to himself, "Who are you?" The alien girl shook her head. She had no words in his tongue, no strength to explain. Her mouth trembled as she whispered the only thing she could. "Monsters." Her voice cracked, her eyes filled with fear. The human frowned, confused, until the ground trembled again. A low growl rolled through the night. From the trees, the glowing red eyes returned. More of them this time. The pug barked furiously. Standing between them once more, the human's face turned pale. He had never seen such creatures, never heard such sounds. The alien girl's whisper was no longer a warning, it was the truth. The monsters had come. The night was no longer silent. The growls of the monsters shook the air. The human man gripped his lantern tighter, his eyes wide with disbelief. He had seen strange animals in the forest before, but nothing like this. These things were wrong. Their shapes too twisted, their eyes burning red like fire in the rain. The pug barked furiously, its small body shaking but its spirit unbroken. The alien girl crouched inside the doghouse, clutching her crystal, her eyes glowing faintly. The human looked between the monsters, the pug and the strange girl. His heart raced, but something inside told him to protect, not to run. The monsters stepped closer, their claws scraping against the ground. Mud splashed as heavy feet pressed into the earth. One monster growled, lowering its head, ready to strike. The human grabbed a wooden shovel leaning against the wall of his house. He raised it high, his arms trembling but steady. He had no weapon but his will. The alien girl gasped. She had never seen a human before. His form was strange, soft compared to the monsters. Yet there was strength in his eyes, she whispered again. Monsters, her voice shaking. The human nodded once, not understanding the word but understanding her fear. He planted himself in front of the doghouse, shovel in hand. The pug stood by his feet, barking like a soldier ready for war. The first monster lunged. The man swung the shovel with all his strength. The wood cracked against the creature's jaw, sending sparks of pain through the air. The monster reeled back, hissing, its red eyes narrowing with rage. The others growled. Circling closer, rain poured harder. Thunder roared. The earth itself felt alive. The alien girl's hands trembled. She wanted to help, but her power was weak. Her crystal flickered faintly. Glowing blue for a moment, she reached out, and a small pulse of energy shot from her fingers. It hit one monster in the chest, making it stumble back. Her body collapsed forward. Drained. The human glanced at her, shocked but grateful. This strange girl was not normal. She was something more. The pug barked louder. Charging forward a few steps, its tiny teeth snapped at the monster's leg. Distracting it, the human used that chance, striking again with his shovel. The monster roared and stumbled back into the shadows. The others hissed, retreating for now, their glowing eyes fading into the trees. But the air still felt heavy. They were not gone, only waiting. The man lowered the shovel, panting hard. The pug returned to his side, wagging its tail proudly. The alien girl crawled out of the doghouse. Weak but alive, her clothes were torn, her skin pale, her eyes glowing softly in the lantern light. The man stared at her, his breath unsteady. He whispered, "What are you?" She shook her head, unable to answer, her lips trembled, her body shaking. She whispered again, softer this time. Monsters. Never stop. The man crouched beside her. He did not know her language, but he felt her fear. Her body was too thin, her face too tired. She looked like she had been running for days, and still, she held on to that crystal with all her strength. He wanted to ask questions, but there was no time. The pug pressed its body against the girl, licking her hand as if to comfort her. Her eyes widened in surprise. On her world, nothing had shown kindness to her, not even her own kind when the war began. And here, a small animal treated her as a friend. Tears filled her eyes, hot and heavy, mixing with the rain. For the first time, she felt a piece of safety. The human offered his hand slowly. She looked at it with fear, unsure. But the pug barked once, wagging its tail. As if to say, "Trust him." The girl placed her hand in his. Trembling, he pulled her gently to her feet, supporting her weak frame. "Come," he said softly. She did not understand the word, but she felt the meaning. He led her toward his small house. It was warm inside. Light glowing through the windows, the alien girl stopped for a moment at the door. Her mind whispered warnings. What if it was a trap? What if he gave her to the monsters? But then she looked at the pug. The little dog wagged its tail and ran inside happily. And she followed inside, the warmth wrapped around her like a blanket. The man placed the shovel near the wall. Still within reach, the pug shook its wet fur. Jumping onto a soft chair, the alien girl stood in the middle of the room, dripping with rain, her eyes wide at everything. Strange objects filled the space, pictures, books, lights, things she did not know but felt safe around. The man brought her a blanket. Placing it over her shoulders, she flinched at first, then relaxed into the warmth. He spoke again, words she could not understand, but his tone was gentle. He pointed to himself, saying, "Ethan?" The alien girl blinked, repeating softly, "E." Then her voice broke the silence. The pug barked happily as if approving for a moment. The storm outside did not matter. For a moment, the monsters were forgotten. Inside this small house, there was light, warmth, and a strange new bond. The human had chosen not to fear her. The pug had chosen to guard her, and she, for the first time, chose not to run. But the night was not finished outside, far beyond the trees. The red eyes glowed again. The monsters had not given up. They were waiting, watching, planning, and the alien girl knew deep in her heart. This was only the beginning. The storm outside raged on. Lightning flashed across the sky, lighting up the forest for a heartbeat. In that single flash, Ethan saw them again, the monsters, their bodies moving through the trees, their glowing eyes like fire in the dark. He gripped the shovel tighter, his breath sharp, his mind racing. The alien girl sat wrapped in the blanket, her eyes wide with terror, the crystal clutched against her chest. The pug stood by the door, barking nonstop, its small body vibrating with courage. The monsters stepped closer. their heavy growls shaking the walls. Ethan's house was small, built of wood, not meant to face claws and teeth. He felt the walls tremble as something slammed against them. The alien girl cried out, pressing her hands against her ears. Her voice cracked as she whispered again. "They never stop. They never stop." Ethan knelt beside her, placing a steady hand on her shoulder. He did not understand her words, but he understood her fear. He said firmly, "We fight." And though she did not know the language, she felt his meaning. The first monster struck the window. Shattering glass, its long arm reached inside. Claws tearing through wood, the pug leaped at it. Teeth snapping at the massive hand, the creature roared, pulling back. Shaking the whole house with its fury, Ethan swung the shovel at the window, hitting the claws with all his strength. The sound rang out, wood against bone. The creature howled and stumbled back, the red glow of its eyes burning brighter. The alien girl's crystal began to glow faintly. She closed her eyes, trying to focus. Her hands trembled as she lifted them, blue sparks flickering from her fingers. But her body was still too weak, her energy nearly gone. Only a small wave of light pushed from her palms, hitting the ground outside. It startled the monsters, but did not stop them. She collapsed again, her chest heaving, tears filling her eyes. "I cannot," she whispered, her voice thin as rain. Ethan crouched by her, shaking his head. "No," he said softly. "You can." He pointed to her crystal. Then to her heart, his eyes told her what words could not. "You are stronger than you think," the pug barked louder, running in circles as if urging them both to act. Then the door shook violently. One monster slammed against it. Wood cracking under the force, Ethan braced himself, shovel ready. The alien girl crawled to her knees, forcing herself to rise. Her body shook, but her will burned. She pressed the crystal to her chest and closed her eyes. "Not again," she whispered. "I will not lose again." The door burst open. The monster entered, taller than the ceiling, its claws scraping against the wood. Its mouth opened wide, full of jagged teeth. Dripping with black drool, the pug growled, charging straight at it. The little dog bit the monster's ankle. Refusing to let go, the creature howled, kicking wildly. Ethan swung the shovel hard against its side. The wood cracking under the force, the alien girl screamed. Releasing a sudden burst of blue light, it exploded through the room, knocking the monster against the far wall. For a moment's silence, the creature writhed, its skin burning from the light. It snarled and staggered toward the window, crashing through it into the storm. The ground shook as it fled back into the forest. Ethan dropped the broken shovel. His chest heaving, the pug limped back to him, still wagging its tail. The alien girl collapsed to her knees. Exhausted but alive, her crystal dimmed, the glow fading to almost nothing. Ethan knelt beside her, lifting her gently. "You did it," he said softly. Though she could not understand, she looked into his eyes, tears mixing with rain and sweat. Her voice broke as she whispered, More will come." Outside, the red eyes appeared again, dozens of them. The storm lit the forest, revealing shadowy shapes moving closer. The first battle was only the beginning. Ethan looked at the broken shovel, then at the girl. He knew he could not fight this alone. She knew she could not survive without him, and the pug, though small, had proven its heart was larger than any monsters together. They were all that stood between this world and the darkness following her. The alien girl leaned against him, her body weak but her spirit awake. She whispered again, her voice firmer this time, "They want me. They never stop." Ethan clenched his fists, his jaw set. "Then we never stop either," he said, his words steady like stone. The pug barked once, sharp and proud, as if sealing the promise. Lightning flashed again. The monsters growled louder. The house was shaking. The night was alive with danger. But inside, 3 hearts beat together. The human, the alien girl, and the pug ready for war. The storm faded slowly, but the forest outside still burned with red eyes. The monsters had not gone. They were waiting, circling, whispering their hunger in the night inside the small wooden house. Ethan stood guard near the broken window, a piece of chair leg now in his hands like a weapon. The pug sat at his feet, its ears pointed, its body tense, and the alien girl lay weak on the floor, her blanket slipping from her shoulders, her crystal glowing faint but steady. Ethan crouched beside her, his eyes full of questions. He spoke gently, his words soft. "Who are you? Where did you come from?" She could not answer in his language, but she knew what he wanted. With shaky hands, she lifted the crystal, Pressing it against her chest, her eyes glowed brighter, and the crystal pulsed with light. The air shimmered, and suddenly, images filled the room. Ethan gasped. Nearly dropping his wooden stick, floating in the air were visions, blue and hazy like a story told in light. He saw great towers, shining cities, skies filled with silver ships. Then he saw fire, shadows falling across the cities, monsters tearing everything apart. He saw her people, tall and graceful, running, screaming, dying. He saw the girl herself, holding the crystal, running through ruins, chased by those same glowing red eyes. The visions ended with the portal, the storm of light, and her fall into this world. The crystal dimmed, the girl fell back. Her breathing heavy, Ethan sat frozen, his heart racing, his mind struggling to believe. The pug tilted its head as if trying to understand too. Finally, Ethan whispered, You're not from here." The alien girl nodded weakly, her eyes filled with sorrow. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "Last, I am last." Ethan's chest tightened. She was the last of her kind, a survivor of a world destroyed, and the monsters, they had not finished their hunt. They wanted her alive, not dead, and that meant she carried something more than fear. He pointed at the crystal, then at her heart. "You carry something," he said softly. She nodded again, whispering, "Power. They want power." Her hands trembled as she tried to explain with gestures. The crystal was not just a memory, it was a seed, a living piece of her people's energy, the last spark of her world. If the monsters took it, they would not only destroy her, they would consume everything. Her voice shook as she said, "If they take me, your world ends." Ethan felt the weight of her words even without understanding them all. He looked around his small home, the broken window, the shaking walls, the glowing eyes outside. He was only one man, with one dog in one house. But now the safety of his entire world might rest on this fragile girl. The pug barked once, loud and clear, as if declaring, "Then we fight." The alien girl's lips curved into the smallest, saddest smile. In her world no one had stood for her, but here, a human and his little dog had chosen to. Hours passed slowly. The monsters scratched at the edges of the forest but did not enter again. They were waiting for weakness. Ethan stayed awake, sitting near the girl, the shovel head now broken beside him. The pug curled at her side, guarding her like a knight. The alien girl whispered broken words now and then, her eyes half closed. Sometimes she said sorry, sometimes home, sometimes never stop. Ethan did not know how to comfort her, so he simply stayed. Sometimes silence was stronger than words. At dawn, the storm faded. The forest looked calm, but Ethan knew it was a lie. The monsters were still out there. Watching, he stepped outside, the morning air heavy with mist. The pug followed, growling softly, nose pointed to the trees. The alien girl stood weakly at the doorway, wrapped in the blanket. Her crystal glowed faintly in the sunlight. She looked at him and whispered, "They follow. Always follow." Ethan clenched his fists, his jaw hard. He had spent his life quietly, working simple days, caring for his dog, living alone. But now his quiet world had been broken, and he felt something awaken inside him, a determination, a fire. He turned back to her, pointing to himself, then to her, then to the pug. "Together," he said firmly. She blinked, her lips trembling, then nodded slowly. Her voice was soft but sure. "Together." But even as the word passed her lips, the ground trembled again. From the forest came a deeper roar. Louder than before, the pug barked furiously. Pulling at Ethan's pants, the alien girl clutched her crystal tighter. Her eyes wide with dread, she whispered, "Not just hunters. Leader?" Ethan's blood ran cold. If these monsters had a leader, then the worst was still to come. The morning light stretched across the forest, but instead of safety, it revealed danger. The trees shook as heavy steps echoed through the mist. Birds scattered, their cries sharp and frightened. Ethan stood at the doorway of his small house, his grip tight on a piece of wood he had shaped into a makeshift club. Beside him, the pug growled low, its tiny body trembling with energy, and behind them, the alien girl clutched her crystal, her face pale, her eyes full of dread. "They come," she whispered. Her voice carried fear and certainty. Ethan did not understand all her words, but he understood the look in her eyes. The monsters were no longer waiting, they were advancing one by one. Dark shapes appeared between the trees. Their red eyes glowed like burning coals. Their growls rolled like thunder through the ground, and above them all a deeper sound, slower, Heavier. The leader, Ethan's heart pounded. His house was too small, too weak. It would not stand against another attack. He looked at the alien girl, then at the pug. They could not fight here. They had to move. Run, he said firmly, pointing toward the road. The alien girl hesitated, her body weak. But the pug barked sharply as if to agree, and together they fled. The forest road was slick with rain and mud. Their feet splashed through puddles as they ran. The alien girl stumbled often, but Ethan caught her each time. Pulling her forward, the pug ran ahead, its short legs moving fast, its barks echoing like a warning. Behind them, the monsters gave chase, their claws tearing through trees, their bodies smashing against the ground. The forest seemed to collapse under their pursuit. Branches broke, stones rolled, the air itself shook. Ethan's breath burned in his chest. He had never run like this before. But every time his body wanted to stop, he thought of the girl's eyes. He thought of the pug's bravery. He thought of the red glow closing in behind them, and he forced his legs to move faster. The alien girl's crystal glowed faintly. Each flicker seemed to push the monsters back for only a moment. But it drained her. Her knees buckled, her face pale with exhaustion. Still, she whispered, "Keep running, keep running." Her voice was weak, but her will was strong. The pug barked suddenly, its nose pointing toward an old abandoned road. Ethan followed without question. They crashed through bushes, stumbling onto cracked pavement. Old cars rusted at the sides, covered in moss forgotten by time. The road wound downhill, leading toward a river. The sound of rushing water grew louder, but the monsters were still close, their roars shaking the air. One leaped from the trees, landing in front of them. Its red eyes glared, its claws ready. Ethan shoved the alien girl behind him, gripping his wooden club. The pug growled, baring its tiny teeth. The monster lunged. Ethan swung with all his strength. Striking its jaw, the wood cracked, the creature stumbled, but another roared from behind them. They were surrounded. The alien girl clutched her crystal tight, her voice breaking. "I bring death to all. I should not be here." Ethan turned to her, his voice sharp, his eyes fierce. "No, you bring a reason to fight," she froze, her heart shaking at his words. No one had ever said that to her before. Her people had called her a burden. The monsters had called her prey. But this human called her hope. The pug barked furiously, pulling at Ethan's pants, urging him forward. And then, with a deep growl, the leader arrived. It was larger than the others, its body covered in jagged scars, its eyes burning brighter than fire. Each step shook the ground, its roar made the trees bend. The other monsters lowered their heads before it. The alien girl's breath caught. "This one, it never stops," she whispered. Ethan gritted his teeth, holding her hand. "We don't stop either," he answered. With no other choice, they bolted downhill. The road ended at the edge of a cliff. Below them, the river raged, water smashing against rocks. The monsters closed in behind, their claws scraping against the pavement. Ethan stood at the edge, his mind racing. There was no bridge, no path, no escape, only the river. The alien girl's hands shook, her voice breaking. "They corner us. No way out." The pug barked once, sharp and fearless, as if to say, "There is always a way." The leader stepped forward, its shadow falling over them. Its red eyes burned brighter. The alien girl clutched the crystal tighter. Ethan tightened his grip on her hand. The pug growled at the edge of the cliff. Ready to leap, the monsters roared in unison. Closing in, the ground trembled. The air filled with thunder. The alien girl whispered, "This is the end." Ethan shook his head, his voice strong. "No, this is the beginning." And with that they jumped. The air tore past them as they fell. The roar of the river grew louder. Ethan held the alien girl's hand tight, his other arm clutching the pug close. For a heartbeat, there was only silence. Then the crash of water swallowed them whole. The river was wild, pulling them under, spinning them like leaves in a storm. Ethan fought to keep them together, kicking hard, his lungs burning. The alien girl's crystal glowed faintly under the water, guiding them upward. At last they broke the surface, gasping. The pug paddling frantically with its small paws. The current dragged them far from the cliff, carrying them into the shadow of a canyon. The monsters above howled in rage, unable to follow through the river's fury, but the leader roared, its voice promising they would not escape forever. Hours passed before they reached the riverbank. Ethan pulled himself onto the mud, his chest heaving. The pug crawled beside him, soaked and shivering but still wagging its tail. The alien girl lay weak, her body trembling, her crystal flickering dim. Ethan sat beside her, brushing wet hair from her face. Her eyes opened slowly, soft but filled with sorrow. "They never stop," she whispered again. Ethan shook his head, his voice steady. "Then we don't stop either." The pug barked once, sharp and certain. The sound echoed in the canyon, a small but powerful promise. The alien girl looked at both of them, her lips trembling. She whispered, "Why? Why do you fight for me?" Ethan did not answer with words. He simply pointed to his chest, then to hers, then to the pug sitting between them. "Together," he said, his voice firm, her eyes softened, her heart heavy. No one had ever chosen her before. And now, in this strange world, she was no longer alone, but their rest was short. The ground trembled again. From the trees beyond the canyon, red eyes appeared once more. The monsters had found another way down. And at their center came the leader, larger than ever, its growl shaking the stones. The pug growled back, standing firm. The alien girl sat up slowly, her hands clutching the crystal. Tears slid down her cheeks, not of fear, but of decision. She whispered, "This ends tonight." The crystal began to glow brighter. Blue light spread across her hands, wrapping her body in a faint aura. Ethan shielded his eyes from the glow. The pug barked in wonder, circling her. The girl's voice shook as she spoke. "This power is my people, my home, my last gift." Ethan realized what she meant. She was ready to sacrifice herself. He shook his head, grabbing her arm, his voice firm. "No, you're not alone anymore," the monsters roared, charging forward. The leader raised its claws, ready to strike. Ethan stood in front of the girl, gripping a jagged rock like a weapon. The pug ran to his side, barking furiously. Together, man and dog faced the oncoming wave. Behind them, the alien girl's crystal burned like a rising star. The first monster leapt. Ethan swung the rock, smashing against its jaw. The pug lunged at its leg, biting with fearless rage. The creature howled, stumbling back. But another came, claws swiping. Ethan barely ducked, the strike ripping his shirt. He gritted his teeth, refusing to fall. Then the girl rose, her body glowing, her eyes shining brighter than the dawn. She lifted the crystal high. The light exploded outward, a wave of blue fire washing across the canyon. The monsters screamed as the light struck them. Their bodies burned, their red eyes flickering and fading. Even the leader staggered, its roar breaking into a shriek of pain. But it did not fall. It pushed forward, forcing through the light, its eyes locked on her, its voice a growl that shook the earth. "Mine," it hissed. The alien girl fell to her knees, the light flickering. She could not hold it alone. Her body was too weak, her strength almost gone. Ethan ran to her, grabbing her shoulders. He shouted, "Not yours, not ever." The pug barked with all its strength, the sound sharp and defiant. Together, their voices joined her power. The crystal flared brighter. Blue light wrapped around all three of them. Human, alien, and pug united. The leader roared, slashing forward. But the light burst like a star. It engulfed the canyon, swallowing the shadows. The monsters screamed, their bodies twisting, dissolving into ash. The leader's red eyes widened, its voice breaking. "No!" It roared before the light consumed it. And then silence. The glow faded slowly. The monsters were gone, their shadows erased. The canyon lay quiet, only the sound of the river flowing. The alien girl collapsed into Ethan's arms, her crystal dim now but still warm. The pug curled beside them, exhausted but alive. For a long moment, none of them spoke. The night was finally still. Ethan held her gently. "You're safe now," he whispered. She opened her eyes, weak but full of peace. Her lips curved into a faint smile. "Home," she whispered. And for the first time, she did not mean the world she lost. She meant here, with them. The pug barked softly, curling against her side. Ethan smiled, his eyes steady. The battle was over. The monsters were gone. And together, they had won.